in order for me and you to be together, and the other person is doing the same. No one knows the practice of going home. So this is the real peace process. And when you can help the other person to do the same, and help her garden to be beautiful, and then mutual understanding become possible. Real communication is possible. This is the roadmap. This is the peace process. And I believe very strongly that if there are enough of you who know the art of cultivating our own garden, and then we can organize a peace conference. And the Israeli group can practice together 1 week or 2 weeks, going back to themselves and cultivate their own garden. Meanwhile, the Palestinian group will do the same. We need people who know the practice of calming, of embracing, of smiling, so that we calm down our emotion, our fear, our mistrust, so that communication can be possible. If peace and negotiation always fail because people don't start with that. They are in a hurry, they want to discuss right away. But mutual understanding cannot be possible with a lot of suffering and fear and suspicion in every side. It's possible for you to organize a peace conference, a people peace conference, somewhere in the Middle East, even in Plumblage, in Paris. And you can have the international press to come and see how you do. You are practicing peace. You are not discussing peace. You are practicing peace. You are establishing real communication with the other group. Relationship between a couple. Whether you are son or father, you are a couple. Whether you are partner, or son and father, or mother and daughter. If you have a difficult relationship, and if you want to make peace with him, with her, you have to go through this process. The father has to go home to himself. And if possible, the son will go home to himself. And if the son may be the initiator of the peace process, he knows that he has to help himself before he can help his father. So he goes home to his garden and cultivates the flower of compassion, understanding, and joy. And after he succeeded, he comes to the father, fresh, compassionate. Before that, he cannot help his father. He feels that it is impossible. He can never help his father to transform. But now, since he has transformed himself, he becomes pleasant, becomes joyful, a lot of compassion. He knows that he can help transform his father. Before that, it looked like there's no hope. No hope to reconcile with the other person, even if he is your own father. Last year, in a retreat in northern Germany, in the city of Oldenburg, we had 6 days, 6 entire days for the practice. The first, the second, the third day are for the practice of going home and practicing calming, embracing, looking deeply. The third, the fourth day, the fifth day, we learn about peaceful communication. How to use the practice of listening deeply and with compassion. How to use loving speech in order to communicate. Because listening with compassion and using kind, loving speech is very important to open up communication. In the beginning, people found it very difficult to use loving speech because they have got a lot of anger. Father and son could not look at each other. Mother and daughter could not look at each other. Impossible for them to use loving speech and to listen, because when you listen, you get irritated because the other person is watering the seed of irritation in you. But after 3 days, 4 days of practice, the seed of compassion and understanding in everyone was watered by the Dharma talks. Because everyone has the seed of compassion and understanding. Everyone is capable of recognizing that they are not only the one who suffer, the other person suffer also very deeply. And we are partly responsible for the suffering of the other person. And when you realize that, you can look at the other person with compassion, with the eyes of compassion. Oh, now I know that he suffers a lot also. Not only I suffer, but she has suffered a lot also. And I used to blame him for my suffering. But I know that I have been partly responsible for my suffering, and I have made him suffer also. So the moment when you are enlightened like that, you get understanding. And with understanding and compassion, suddenly you can look at him or her with compassion. The situation changes. And suddenly you find you can listen to him, you can listen to her with compassion. And the way you look at him now is different. The way you listen to him now is quite different. It changed the whole situation. It makes communication possible. Oh my God, I didn't know that he also has suffered that much. And I have been responsible for his suffering also. In the past, I believed that I am the only one who suffered. I didn't know that she has suffered also a lot. So that moment when you get that kind of enlightenment, understanding, your eyes are different. Your words are different. And communication is possible. On the eve of the 5th day, I gave the instructions as how to reconcile with your beloved one. And I told them that you have until midnight tonight in order to complete your work of reconciliation. And the Dharma talk was given at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I told the people in the retreat, 600 people or more, to do the work of reconciliation using loving speech and compassionate listening in order to reconcile. And there was a day of practice. If your beloved one is in a retreat, you can come to her.